So I would like to invite Brother Muhammad Hur to come up and present a source. Assalamu alaikum.
वालेकुम सलाम। प्यारे नबी की प्यारी नवासी शाम को कैदी बन के चली है, सबर की मलका ज़हरा की प्यारी शाम को कैदी बन के चली है। शाना पकड़ कर काश बिठाए, नाए सवाली नाए हमारी शाम को कैदी बन के चली है। प्यारे नबी की प्यारी नवासी शाम को कैदी बन के चली है। भाई भतीजे भांजे बेटे साथ वतन से आई थी लेके, मर्दर आज अकेली शाम को कैदी बन के चली है। नबी की प्यारे नवासी शाम को कैदी बन के चली है। तो वसत का भाई पे करके जिसने किए थे शुक्र के सजदे, छोड़ के तन्हा उसकी शाम को कैदी बन के चली है। प्यारे नबी की प्यारी नवासी शाम को कैदी बन के चली है। से निकले न बाहर बलवे में लाए उसको से तंगर, और बाट बिनते अली की शाम को कैदी बन के चली है। प्यारे नबी की प्यारी नवासी शाम को कैदी बन के चली है। Muhammad wali Muhammad
Ajil farajahum. And can we have another loud salawat for the salamti and for the acceptance of the kalam of Brother Muhammad Hur? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. It truly is a wonderful sight to see, people of all ages, people as young as our brother just now, and then, of course, the older members of our community, our elders joining in, and everyone sat together on the first Shahzad of Imam Hussein, because everyone picks up different things from the same speeches, from the topics, and together we can move towards learning more and more about our Islam, about our responsibilities that the religion of Islam has placed upon us, to reaching that level where we can sort of recognize our purpose, where we truly connect with the Ahlul Bayt and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And continuing this sort of silsila of reciters, I would like to invite Brother Taha Ali to present the source for us. Assalamu alaikum, Taha.
Wa alaikum salam. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Ya Ali, Ya Hussein, Ya Ali, Ya Hussein, Ya Ali, Ya Hussein. Live like Ali, die like Hussein. Live like Ali, die like Hussein. Live like Ali, die like Hussein. Allah loves those who have love for Muhammad in their hearts. He is the city of knowledge, Ali's door and path. Hussein and Prophet Muhammad can never be apart, cause this is what Muhammad has said from the start. Hussein minni wa ana min al-Hussein, Hussein. Live like Ali, die like Hussein. Live like Ali, die like Hussein. For life and death they are the guidance and philosophy, the sacrifice of Hussein and the way of life of Ali. You only need to look at final sujood of each. This is the art of life and death we should achieve. Hussein, These were the words of Ali. Fustu bi Rabbil Kaaba. Live like Ali, die like Hussein. Live like Ali, die like Hussein. Live like Ali, die like Hussein. Hussein's the one who's the meaning of courage, love, and peace. He owns the earth and everything within the seas. He is the path to the heavens, this is the guarantee. To love Hussein is the best way to let your soul be free. Husseiniya, we follow him because he guides us to what we're looking for. Live like Ali, die like Hussein. Live like Ali, die like Hussein. Live like Ali, die like Hussein. When growing up, we have been taught this lesson every day. Without a doubt, you have been born to serve the Ahlul Bayt. For loving them, you may face torture, agony, and pain. Every time, you should never be scared to face that hate. Husseiniya, the bravery of Ali is what you should always show. Live like Ali, die like Hussein. 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 Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Thank you, Brother Taha, for your wonderful recitation of that salam. And as it was mentioned in his kalam as well, Imam Ali, when he was struck in sujood, he said, Futtu bi Rabbil Kaaba, by the Lord of the Kaaba, I have succeeded. And his daughter, Sayyidah Zainab, salamullah alayha, when the oppressor tried to taunt her, oh, what did you see in Karbala? Look what we have done to you. She said, Ma ra'aytu illa jamila. I saw nothing but beauty. That in the most tough moments where we perceive a time of hardship for the Ahlul Bayt, they exhibit the ideal amount of sabr. They behave in the most ideal possible way. And this level of Iman, of course, is not something we can reach as their Masumin, but it's something we aspire to reach. We aspire to be amongst the true followers of Imam Zaman and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, which of course is a topic of discussion of Maulana Hamza Sodagar at the moment. Before I invite Brother Samar to present a summary, we have a few more people here, so I'd like to repeat that tomorrow's youth Majalis will be held at 8:30 p.m. in Azakhana-e-Zahra, and on Friday, inshallah, on the day of Ashura, at 10:30 a.m. will be the final Majlis, and it will also be held in Azakhana-e-Zahra. So I urge everyone to come to join and to participate in the Majalis and to give pushta to Bibi Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra, Sayyidat al-Nisa al-Alameen, sallallahu alayha. Now, without further ado, I would like to invite Brother Samar Kazmi to present a summary of the previous Majlis. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Samar.
Alaikum assalam. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm quickly going to recap Agha's previous lecture to reconnect with some of the important points. There are multiple reasons why it is important for the companions of 12th Imam to realize the importance of the values of Islam, values of Tashayyu, and the values of the 12th Imam. One reason is that it is doable. It's spread to people, and if you do what you need to do, Allah will make it happen for you. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was oppressed, barely got a chance to speak, and he was killed in Karbala. But his message is more than alive, even after thousands of years. His oppressors are forgotten. Teachings of Muawiyah and Yazid are gone. Yazid's military might that crushed the movement of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, but that movement is still alive and going. You do your part, even if you got killed, you are on the winning team. We as a Muslim nation needs to recognize the Islamic values. Western value system is pushing us towards liberalism. Democracy does not come from West. They are kicking around the Quran, the book of democracy. People are reading this book, accepting its value, but liberals are not happy with it. They want you to accept their value system. As Yazid kicked Imam Hussein alayhi salam, so nobody refers to him. In Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we have sent missionaries. The mission was to deliver the message, explain it and implement the message. As a Shia, we got to understand it and not deceived by the Western democracy. Muslim world is broken not because of its not implementing democracy, but not implementing what Quran says. Because ideal system is in Quran and Hadith. The next step for people to realize what real democracy is and what deception is, we start taking Western democracy as real democracy. It is a deception that is a foundation of Western value system. To differentiate things and to understand the true concepts, we need to study Islam. If you choose to go as companion of 12th Imam alayhi salam, you should study Islam. We cannot rely on scholars to tell us something. We need to study Islam directly through the Quran and Hadith. Quran is a first source and Hadith is a second source. To become the true companion of the 12th Imam, we need to study our religion so that we could differentiate from the truth and deception. Thank you. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Very well put together, Brother Samad. And as he emphasized, yes, the onus is on us to take the initiative. These Majalis, this Ashra of Muharram, these times of Imam Hussein are a reminder for us to reconnect and to take on the responsibility of being a Shia. It's not just about coming into the Majalis, listening and then leaving without taking anything from it. The responsibility of being a Shia of Imam Ali and of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam is huge and something that we take lightly oftentimes. Before I invite the Sheikh, I'd also like to remind once again the schedule of the Majalis. Tomorrow's Majlis will be held 8:30 p.m. in Azakhana-e-Zahra. It will be streamed there, so I invite everyone to come in. And on Friday, the day of Ashura, inshallah, will be held at 10:30 a.m. again in Azakhana-e-Zahra. Sheikh Hamza Sodagar will speak from it, but they will be streamed in Azakhana-e-Zahra. And with that having said, under a loud salawat, I would like to invite Shaykh al-Islam al-Muslimin, Agha Hamza Sodagar, to come and begin his speech. Assalamu alaikum. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Assalamu alaikum, Agha. We're waiting for you to begin.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين طبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين المنتجبين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. For the hastening the return of our Imam, let's recite the salawat. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم. May Allah accept all of your efforts in commemorating the shahadat of Imam al-Hussein, and inshallah all of you are part of the companions of the 12th Imam who will avenge the atrocities against Imam al-Hussein. And we pray that Allah accepts us all as such. We mentioned yesterday that, and we ended on the note that we need to study Islam, and I want to talk about that today. I have spent a little bit of time, or I spent a little bit of time yesterday talking about the importance of it, so I won't reiterate that. I will assume we have some level of understanding, although the community overall, I am convinced, does not, the community of believers worldwide, not specifically a community. The community of the followers of the Ahlul Bayt, the Shia, I am convinced, does not understand the importance of studying Islam for everyone. And the reason for that is I don't see an attempt, a meaningful attempt to change that by studying Islam. And I don't see a meaningful attempt to create the means for that for the community. Let me elaborate a little bit on that and let you all into a little, I won't call it a secret, but something that I think many people, because of there not being an attempt, they have not seen this, but I'll let you know something, and that is studying Islam in the current conditions and with the infrastructure available for it is very difficult. Because people, A, don't know where to start, they don't know how to do it. And if they want to go and figure out how to do it, ask those that perhaps have gone through the process of learning. They will see that they won't find any resources explaining to them how to do it. They won't find a curriculum. They won't find books. They won't find a person or an institution that has or is willing to put something together to make that a reality and make that happen. But none of that is known by most people because there isn't a real effort in making that a reality. People get interested. People have somewhat of a motivation to learn, and then a very brief attempt, not a serious one, and seeing that there doesn't seem to be, they can't figure things out, or sometimes even before that, the effort is stopped. You get busy with other things in life, and the priorities are decided in a way where you continue, or people generally don't continue with that. So I think the first thing to say about the process of studying Islam for the believers who want to become better companions of the 12th Imam, they need to understand that the infrastructure for it is not currently available. Not that it's not possible. Back in the days when you didn't have the highways that are available today, it was possible to travel, but it wasn't common to travel. It was very difficult to travel. People didn't just decide on a whim, on a weekend, to travel from one city in the south of the country to another city in the north of the country. They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't want to do that to enjoy life, because it wasn't enjoyable. It was difficult. There were a lot of troubles. There were a lot of dangers that you'd have to overcome to get from that southern city in that country to the northern city, or travel from one country to the other. If you wanted to travel from your country that is an island to mainland Europe, the travel would take a long time and it would be dangerous. There were dangers, serious dangers, that you would think twice. It would have to be a must. It was possible though, it wasn't impossible. The infrastructure that has developed over the course of the 20th century has made travel so easy. You can decide right now that 2 hours later you're going to be in a city that is an hour's drive today with a car, with the highway system that you have, with an electric car perhaps. You can travel that distance that you had to spend a few days traveling on foot, or if you had a horse that you could ride, you would be able to do it perhaps in a day or half a day, but an entire half a day, and you had to have preparations and so on and so forth. Infrastructure makes it possible for a lot more people. It makes it convenient. It makes it accessible. It makes it available. It makes it something that you can decide at more people at whatever time they want, they can decide to do something. That's what infrastructure does. Islam has always been available to whoever wants to gain the riches of the Quran and the sayings of the Ahlul Bayt. It's always been available. However, throughout time, some very, very basic infrastructure has been created. The books of hadith, there used to be a time during the first few centuries of Islam, up to, I would roughly say, in the end of almost the 3rd century of the Hijri calendar, which would be roughly, and very roughly, about the 9th or 10th century Gregorian or New Era. Around that time, up to around that time, the books, compilations of the sayings of the Ahlul Bayt were small books compiled by different people, and if you wanted to access them, then you would have to go and find that person and get a collection of hadith that included maybe around a few hundred, a couple of hundred. hadith, 100 hadith, 200 hadith. And that will be pretty much it. In the 4th century of the Hijri calendar, some of the ulama, starting with Sheikh Al-Kulayni, rahmatullah alayh, he put together a compilation that organized the ahadith from a lot of these smaller books of 100, 200, 300, 500 hadith into a collection that has over 16,000 hadith. He's one of the first that gathered and rearranged, organized all of these from these various books into one collection, where if you're looking for a particular topic, the title of the chapter helps you and guides you find the hadith you're looking for, and you don't have to go to 50 different books to find them. It's one collection. After him, Sheikh As-Saduq did. There are others, but these are some of the main figures. Sheikh As-Saduq created a few compilations that are, again, larger compilations than those smaller books. And based on theme, depending on theme, the theme that he had in mind, each of these books has a different number of hadith. But again, it made it easier for people to find the sayings they're looking for. Sheikh At-Tusi is the next one. In the next century, in the 5th century, that compiles new collections and adds to this infrastructure. We have a gap of a few hundred years, and then we start having a couple of new compilations of hadith. For instance, Wasa'il al-Shi'a, Bihar al-Anwar. These are the works created in approximately the 11th century of the Hijri calendar. So from the 5th century to the 11th century, we don't have any new developments. When we look at these books, while this is infrastructure, but it's very basic, very primitive. For example, Sheikh Al-Kulayni put that together, but how available was it? How accessible was that one book? They started making copies, but those were very primitive ways of making copies. You had to have a student sit there with the teacher. The teacher reads the book, the student writes from the book, and then you have a second copy, a third copy, 10 copies. If you want to access 10 copies available to the whole world, where do you have to be, and where do you get information that there is such a book? And then when people know a few centuries later that there is such a book, if they want that copy, where do they go to find this copy or a copy of that book? So with the advancement of the technologies and print becoming something, press becoming something, they started printing these books. So a lot more copies were made available. With the advancement of the sciences and technologies, and with the development of information technology, or IT, infrastructure grew in this regard, and the books weren't just provided by, for example, scanning or making the document available on the internet that we have today, but work has been put into in the Islamic Republic under the guidance of the leader, supported by and pushed forward with or by the leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. They have created software that helps with finding material beyond just titles of chapters. Search engines are created. A new type of search engine. AI is going to be added to that, and to a certain degree, there's some level of that, not exactly AI, but there are some more advanced versions of search on these websites, or more advanced versions of tools to help you find material that you're looking for. This so far has been done. However, this is not near enough, and this is not very serious infrastructure. In order to use this material that I just mentioned, this software that's available, it's cloud-based. Right now it's available as a cloud-based software where you don't have to buy a CD to install or download the file to install on your computer. You get a subscription, you have access, you can access all those books on your phone or on your tablet, on your iPad, without even having a very powerful processor on your computer, because it's cloud-based. It's almost like streaming the screen from that other computer that does the processing. In order for you to be able to use that, you need to know what these different hadith books are. You need to know already what some words in the ahadith are. You need to know a lot before you can actually use the software. The software is good, it's great, it's amazing. But is that infrastructure the type of infrastructure that makes a person that decides today, I want to go and study a little bit about the 12th Imam's plan for, I don't know, whatever the topic might be, for the sciences, for arts. I want to go and study music in Islam. Can you just decide to do that? If you decide to do that, if you open up this software, would you be able to get anything meaningful out of that? I would say I'm 100% sure you can pretty much find nothing on the software. An average person cannot use that software. An average person cannot study the books that are available on hadith. You can't find anything in it. You have no idea where to look, how to understand. That's what I mean by infrastructure. The infrastructure that makes this material available to the people is not there. We have not created that infrastructure. Infrastructure needs to be developed. Let me give you another example so that we understand, because the example I gave previously of infrastructure is hardware, it's roads, it's cars. When we're talking about learning, what does infrastructure mean? Accessing information, what does that mean? Right now, all of you are familiar with internet searches. I'll give two examples, a good example and a bad example. Bad example is the illusion of there being infrastructure to learn things. You want to figure out, does the American government oppress people or not? You do a search on Google. That looks like infrastructure. It makes it accessible. You decide, oh, on a whim, I want to know what the truth of this is. The sheikh said that they oppress people. Okay, let's go figure that out. You do a Google search. Everything that pops up is going to suggest otherwise. That's not real infrastructure. That just is a search about what is available. You need to understand how the internet works. You need to understand how search engines work. Material is produced by media that's available, and that's the majority of what's out there. They flood the outlets. They flood media outlets, social media outlets, with misinformation and a mix-up of misinformation, different variations of that. So when you do a search on Google, it is a search and it brings up all of what's available online on the topic, but because there's so much of the nonsense, when you do that search, by the time you get to page 10 of that Google search, which nobody even looks at that, you go to the first page, you look at the first few, you click on one of the first few, if you don't get confused with the ads that are there, the sponsored there, you do something below that and you look a little bit, maybe you go to the second page, maybe at some point you go to the third page and you're going to click on something and read it. That's a bad example. It's not a good example because there's almost zero accuracy in that at times, depending on what the topic is. Sometimes on basic things, when you're trying to find a product, it's good. But when you're trying to find information on a topic where there's a lot of misinformation available, then you're not going to be able to find the right material. You're going to have to do a lot of research, read a lot of material before you can figure out what's going on. But a good example is a dictionary. The dictionary has become such a common thing to see, such a common available tool that we forget the importance of it. But I'll give you some examples that are recent developments that we should notice and what a difference this makes. Today, you have translating software, which is the advanced version of a dictionary. Instead of looking at just a plain English to English dictionary, right now you have access to dictionaries. Again, I don't want to get into the translation software that is not developed yet as much. I'm talking about Oxford dictionaries on your device. Your small tiny phone that you carry contains multiple dictionaries. You can check a word in English and find the equivalent in multiple languages in a matter of seconds. And that is work, that's infrastructure. Scholars of language, people who are very familiar with language and know these different languages, have sat down, carefully put the material together, and have authorized the publishing of that, the publication of it. It has been published. Now, if you want a reliable source, reliability is very important. That's part of infrastructure. You want a reliable equivalent for the word in Arabic that you found in the Quran or in Hadith. You want to find a reliable English equivalent. You can check that in a matter of seconds. The problem with that, of course, if we're talking about Quran and Hadith, is that the Arabic English dictionaries are modern Arabic and they're not complete. But compared to what it used to be, we had nothing. We didn't have, if you wanted to have an Arabic to English dictionary, you would have to go and find somewhere, God knows where, a hard copy of a dictionary that was produced in the 80s or 90s, Hansware Dictionary. Now you have a searchable version of that online. You can download wherever you are in the world. Again, it'll take you a few minutes to find, to download, and then you do the search. But again, on that one, you need to know how to use that dictionary. Otherwise, it's going to be useless. The dictionary will be useless. There's a problem. That infrastructure has that problem. It's for advanced Arabic learners. You need to know the Arabic language before you can pull it up. But this basic dictionary that is available on your phone that Oxford, for example, has put together, that it's not complete, but if you put in a word, you're going to get something. You're going to find that's infrastructure. Where is the infrastructure for a Shia of the Ahlul Bayt that wants to look something up and understand what verses and ahadith are related to it? Do we have that where a 15-year-old Shia wants to know that from their own religion? They could just pick up their phone and go somewhere in a matter of minutes, be able to find at least some material on it. We don't have that. We don't have that in Arabic, Urdu, and Farsi, which are the original languages that these books and works are put together. We don't have that in those languages, let alone in English. We don't have that. the knowledge of Islam is not accessible. It's available. God made it available. We are supposed to work on creating the infrastructure, the same way that God made these riches of the natural world available. The energy stored within uranium, that was always available. God gave us the ability and put that task on us to find a way, the infrastructure, to make that energy available where it doesn't harm us, it helps us. We produce electricity with or from the energy stored in uranium. If you don't create that infrastructure while plenty of uranium is available and all of it has that energy, and there's more too, this is just one element and one type of resource and one of the riches of the natural world available. God made it available, but you need to create infrastructure to benefit from it. God sent down the Quran. God sent the Ahlul Bayt. They spoke to us. It's available. Anyone, it's actually not like nuclear technology in the sense of you can't benefit from it unless you've created all of that info. It's available. And that's why I gave the example of travel. Travel was always available. You can always travel. Even back then, before the car, the train was developed, the cars were developed, before flight was a thing, travel was possible. It wasn't impossible. It was just so difficult that a lot of people couldn't or wouldn't get involved with that. And if you did, you couldn't do it as easily and as simply as you can today. The Quran has always been available. In fact, right now it's available. If you want to learn from the Quran, it's available for everyone. But if we create infrastructure, the amount of reference to the Quran, the frequency of that, how many times would people refer to the Quran, be very different. If we create the infrastructure, and again, what do I mean by infrastructure here? Making reliable information available, and also making the tools for analyzing and studying it. Let me give an example on that. All of us, because we go through secular education, we have, that's infrastructure, that schooling system has created some, there's certain things that all of us know, certain mathematical processes that we're all familiar with. We know how it works. You don't need to teach us to do those equations. We've already learned through school. Now, if you want to learn something, if you want to find something out in a particular situation, you want to do woodworking, you want to create something that requires measurements, and you have the infrastructure in the schooling, you learn how to do these mathematical equations. You don't have to sit there like, oh, how the heck am I going to do this? Well, you've already learned it. You have learned how to find answers to your questions in math. You have learned how to find answers to your questions related to literature, related to language. If you're doubtful how to put this paragraph together or how to write something, then there's a way of you learning. You know where to go to find that information. That's infrastructure. We have created that in our schooling system. But did we create that? If a person wants to go and learn, study Islam, because sometimes you're looking for basic information, that information should be made available like a dictionary. dictionaries, basic information. We can create that. But studying it is something that the Quran requires studying it. But do we create the infrastructure, the educational infrastructure for that? Does every Shia, every Muslim, do they know how to access the Quran? How to study the Quran? No, we didn't create that. We have not created that. It's not available. That's why when we say study the Quran, people are wondering, scratching their heads, okay, I love to do that, but what does that exactly mean? Do I go to Quran.com and find a translation and just look at that translation? What does studying the Quran even mean? That's how unfamiliar we are with that. Doesn't make sense because we've spent 12 years studying math, studying biology, studying the sciences, studying literary arts, language arts, grammar. 12 years of that, so we're very familiar with those things, but then we have not spent any time. There's no infrastructure. We've been given very basic, very, very primitive, not ways to study, not learning math that opens the doors for you to understand other things, but just some very, very primitive, basic information of our religion in, let's say, Sunday school for those, or madrasa for those who have that. For those who have that. We haven't created infrastructure. We need to, as a community, understand that, realize that, and we are responsible to create that. When you see a deficiency as grand as that, it's a very serious deficiency. It's a very serious deficiency. I can't begin to elaborate on how significant that is. But I think we all have somewhat of an understanding of how serious this problem is. We've got to work on developing. Now, you may think, why am I even mentioning this? It's the job of you guys, meaning myself and people who've studied, to create that. So just do it. What's your problem? Get your lazy tails together and do it. I would agree. Yes, it's my responsibility. It's the responsibility of anyone who has studied Islam to create that. However, there's two reasons why I'm mentioning this. One, if the community does not understand the importance of it, and we keep continuing with life the way we have been, then as a community, we have not moved in that direction. That will mean we are content with people like me being lazy. We're fine with just having 10 majalis and we're done. We're over that. We did our thing. Alhamdulillah, let's go back to life. We're not going to hold those who've gone and studied responsible to create the infrastructure. We're not going to keep asking them. We're not going to keep pushing them. We're not going to keep demanding that. That's one reason. The other reason that I'm mentioning this is, so that the first reason has to do with the community understanding and wanting this, motivating those who can do it to do it, pushing it, asking, demanding for this to be a development, for us to have that infrastructure. But secondly, I think the community needs to be part of developing that infrastructure. The community can't be outsourcing that. It's not really outsourcing. The community can't sit idly and say, you guys do it, we're waiting on you guys, there's nothing for us to do. No, that's not the case. That is not the case. If you take the example of the education system, right? The education system, the Western education system, Western secular education system that has developed and it has made a lot of advancements up to today. There's still changes being made within the education system. That is because all sorts of different people have been involved in making it happen. One of the most important parts of that is people coming and education system. Going through, don't take that for granted. If people did not go to the institutions to learn, gradually it wouldn't have come to the point where right now K through 12 is, of course you're going to go to school. I mean, that's not even a question. But it didn't used to be like that. 200 years ago, perhaps 100 years ago, I don't know exactly when this became a thing where everyone knows in the West, because in the East it's within the last 40, 50, 60 years that it's become a thing. Literacy in Muslim countries was very low. In the Islamic Republic, pre-Islamic Republic in Iran, literacy was, I don't know, 30%, I think, 40% maybe. It wasn't the thing that you know you're going to go to school. Everybody knows you're going to be going to school at age 6 or 7 for the first grade. And then before that, kindergarten again, or preschool. People went to these institutions. People considered it important. If the best students of Islam, the greatest scholars of Islam, put a program together, if nobody adopts that program, nobody goes to study, it will never turn into infrastructure. It will never turn into infrastructure. The community needs to want it and be part of it. Demand on one hand. On the other hand, okay, what do we need to do? Do we need a place? Do we need Zoom? Do we need online setups? What do we need to do? Let's do this. Make it widespread. Go and learn in whatever that institution that will develop, that you will be part of pushing people who can put it together. Put it together. Go yourself and your family and your children. Go to these institutions and learn it. And turn that into infrastructure that is available. A system of study developed by the best of scholars. If it's not a system, if it's not a curriculum, if it's not a syllabus, or there aren't syllabi that people study and go through, we will never be able to turn that into something that translates into public knowledge. People need to go and study and learn in those systems. The community needs to, on one hand, demand, want, and that's one reason why I'm explaining that we don't have that. You need to want it, talk about it, work toward it. From the young to the old, the youth should demand from their parents, from the shuyukh, from the scholars, from everyone. Like, why don't I have access to the words of the Ahlul Bayt? I don't know how to access them. Guys, you need to get your act together, make this a reality. But then if your demand is real, when something, even if it's primitive, even if it's small, even if it's not complete, is presented to you, then take that. And then give feedback. Oh, this is, I still don't know how to do this. I still don't understand the books of hadith. I don't know where to go, what tool to use. And that's the only way we're going to make progress in that direction. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us and puts us in positions where we are part of creating the infrastructure necessary for people globally to understand Islam. God will make that happen as He has brought it as far as we have seen it today. But it will become even more accessible It will happen. God will make that happen. It's a promise that God has made. But it will happen through people. We pray and hope that we are some of those people, inshallah. Sallallahu alayk. Ya Mawla. Ya Aba Abdullah. صلى الله عليك يا مظلوم أيها الشهيد بكربلاء عطشانا. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon you, our beloved Imam al-Hussein. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon you, my beloved oppressed Imam, the Imam who was slaughtered by the Euphrates while his mouth was dry of thirst. Ya Abu Abdullah. Inshallah, we get to go for ziyarah to the shrine of the Imam. There was a young boy in Karbala, although he was only 13 or so years of age, when he saw the men discussing that tomorrow there's only martyrdom, there's only death, there's only to be killed. When he saw that conversation, he went to the Imam. He said, "Oh uncle, will I also be of the shuhada?" Imam al-Hussein said to him, "How do you view death, Qasim?" Qasim said, "Ahla min al-asal." It's better and more pleasant than honey. So on the day of Ashura, he sought permission from the Imam to go to the battlefield. While he was too young to wear armor that fit him, when he went to the battlefield, the brave son of Imam al-Hassan, he announced his presence. He announced to the enemy who he is for them to recognize. He engaged in battle with these men. He was able to make a presence known in a battlefield filled with cruel men, to the degree that some of the enemy members planned to go. They had to go forward and plan how they would attack this young boy, until the call was heard from Qasim, "Ya Amma, oh uncle." Imam al-Hussein rushed to the body of Qasim. The Imam said, "My dear Qasim, it's difficult for your uncle to hear your call and not be able to do much. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. يا حسين
يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين जब रदा सर से छिनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया गाजी जब रदा सर से छिनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया गाजी आले इमरान ने कहा और जिंदा ने कहा ये बहन कैद हुई तू ना आया गाजी जब रदा सर से छिनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया गाजी हमको पानी ना मिले तेरी खुशबू तो रहे ना कटे चाहे मशकी जाचिदे ये मगर हो ना सका तेरे बाजू है जुदा मुझ पे है तशना लबी तू ना आया गाजी धूप में तू दे था घर है बरे ना मेरा सर क्या नहीं तुझे को खबर ए अलमदार वफा इस बहन को बाखुदा तुझसे दारस्ती बरी तू ना आया गाजी आ गई शाम अलम लुट गए हरम रेत पर जलती हुई हो गया ठंडा आलम फुर्सत देने के लिए मुझसे मिलने के लिए आ गए बाली तू ना आया गाजी जब रदा सर से छीनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया गाजी क्या कहूँ शेर बेरदा हमको लिए ये मुसलमान सारे शहर दर शहर गए खिलकत कूफा कभी खिलकत शाम कभी और हाँ हम पे हंसी तू ना आया गाजी आ गई शाम लुट गए अहले हरम रेत पर जलती हुई हो गया ठंडा लम फुर्सत देने के लिए आया गाजी कितनी बेबस थी बहन ए शहनशाह वफा नाम लिख ले मेरा जब ये जालिम ने कहा नाज था जिस पे तुझे अब बुलाओ नारों से और मैं रोती रही तू ना आया गाजी कैद खाने में कज़ा जब सकीना को मिली देखे कुर्ते